and good evening, YouTube. So, welcome to this short talk on helping an employee in distress. So, the reason I'm doing this live talk is basically taking inspiration from the article from Harvard Business Review. It's a really good article, and it talks about using more CBT in the office and helping managers. And I think we need to see more of that. I talked about this about in the last 12 months or even a year ago or even 2 years ago about using counselling skills more so in the office. So the trend is starting to come through now a little bit, and it's nice to see Harvard Business Review do a piece on this. I do recommend you check out the article, the original one. I put a link in the box. And I'm just going to throw in some of my research against that and align it and then offer you something a little bit more simple. So I don't plan to talk more for 10 minutes or so. Um, yeah, helping an employee in distress. It's quite evident that we live in a world now where stress and anxiety is coming to the office, whether you work at home or you're in the office itself. And we need to be a lot more aware of people's emotions. So, your emotional intelligence, your ability to understand your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. A very short, basic definition that I often use. So, that's important, but I haven't really seen that there's loads of articles on this EQ, better leadership, but are we really practicing the skill? And the article really bring this out by using a case study and talking about an employee that's going through stress and how to really coach somebody, a manager, it could be any employee, to understand what they're going through, which is not sympathy, that's empathy. And which is my first subject point I want to talk about. And there was loads of articles written about this, but it's really bringing it's light into conversation right now because I think we're going to see more positive trends and more companies and more managers and more CEOs um, try to do this. And counselling skills are so important, and we don't have to be a trained clinician or psychiatrist, as the article talks about, to use these skills. And I highly recommend anybody to try and grab onto a level 2 counselling skills course. I think here in the UK there is a company, I can't remember the brand name. If I remember, I'll put it in the comments box, that's doing it for free. And it goes through a really good curriculum. Now, you can also do the first aid mental health uh, curriculum or the course. I haven't done that myself. I've looked at the curriculum, it's pretty good. But being a lived experience thought leader, I've gone through a lot of trauma myself, and I've taught myself from my own research how to master my emotions, which is what I'm celebrating to you with here, really in short. So let's wind it down just a little bit. I don't want to get too complicated here. So the number one skill we know is empathy, but specifically more so as we transition more into the world of AI, that will increase and decrease stress in the office, whether you work at home. So we're still going to need lots of empathy and action. That's your ability to understand what someone is going through in that moment. And what you'll see with counsellors is that they sit down in the chair and they talk to somebody. Somebody might be suffering PTSD, for instance, in which case the brain really needs to get that stuff out because we heal from pain up here when we talk about things, especially when someone is showing empathy towards that person. And it's just truly amazing how this works, but it's so, in a way, more than therapeutic. It's a healing power that we have within counseling and psychology. That when we talk to somebody and we understand what they're going through, just even it's somewhat a little bit, it helps them heal. And the more we do that over time, we heal that pain. It doesn't go away completely because the memory is still up here. And when we talk about stress in the office, I don't just mean office stress from the job. You could come to work and gone are the days where you say, right, you leave your problems at the door. And there still might be some cultures out there that, operate in that way. But we need to be into the practice of putting our arms around each other and saying to each other, you know what, I'm here for you. And that's what we're trying to train managers and coaches. We're trying to get this message across for the last 2 years now, and it's nice to see it starting to emerge a little bit more on a scale. So empathy in action, and we can all teach ourselves. I mean, some people say that we need to have empathy for ourselves before we have empathy for others, and it's a two-way street. Um, I'm not going to give you the answer on that because I want people to build up their own perception and ideas. But the skill of empathy in action is with all of us. Okay, you can walk down the street, someone falls over, and they start crying, or they're in pain, or they're bleeding, and you run up to them and say, "Oh, can I help you?" Yeah, that's offering some kind of form of empathy, and we need to be more alert and talk to our fellow managers and coaches and you know colleagues alike. It doesn't have to be from the top down. So, although I've told this, management mental health, it's within all of us to try and do this, and it's a lifetime skill. I mean, I've looked at my own emotional intelligence and the relationship I have with my own mental health and that with others for the last 5 years. And I know that I'm very highly self aware. Sometimes I miss the mark. Sometimes I don't know, for instance, because I suffer from a long term mental health condition, when I'm going to have my next seizure. So, what I try to do, which will bring me into point three, and I'll come back to point two, is learn to meditate on your thoughts. Because in an office, it's great that we can have empathy and action and put our arms around someone and offer them support, which is where we need to be with human race. But equally, are you looking after yourself so that you can offer that support? And the way that we do that is we need to be more thankful in our personal lives. Um, so many videos I've done across my social media accounts where I've said, look, you need to learn to meditate on your thoughts. What do I mean by that? You don't have to be a monk. You don't have to be some kind of emotional guru to do this. It's not about meditation. It's literally, when I say meditate on your thoughts, you're just sitting in a chair with no social media around you, in a room, nice and quiet, even just waking up in the morning, and at least spending 10 minutes a day with your own thoughts. I personally do this for 1 hour every morning, and it helps me set the day, and it helps me understand my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, my EQ, as it were, in a better way. So I might have a stress or worry up here, but by just kind of sitting there and, okay, yeah, I'm a bit concerned about that. What do I need to do? And you don't have no pen and paper. It's just you being in a room with your thoughts. And for some of you, that might scare you. All right. But I want to encourage you to say, look, okay, I need to do more what Steve says. I need to meditate my thoughts, because we spend so much of our lives on social media, mobile phones, doing things for others. And, we're in relationships and we're busy. Our lives are busy. We've got our stress and our worries. But our natural thoughts are who we are. And a lot of people say that do commit suicide are they feel alone because they've lost their sense of being with their thoughts, and they don't like being with their thoughts. So one of my campaigns is to lower global suicide, a big task, by 15% by 2030. But I truly believe with this kind of research, this is again evidence in this Harvard Business Review, we can all do this. We can all help towards doing that very thing. You don't want to see one of your friends, or even someone in your family, let's say, is taking their life because they feel alone. And although we're keeping the conversation in context about, office stress, it's real life. People do die of stress, whether it's at the home or at the office. We're there for each other in an ideal world, and we don't live in a perfect world. We know this. So, in short, we need to be more comfortable with our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and getting to understand that it's okay to feel stress. Now, when we're in a place of comfortableness, and we can come up into work and we say, look, how you doing today? Oh, I don't feel great. At that moment, you start probing and asking them more questions, but we only get to do that over time and experience when we understand more about our own emotions. So, which is what I call point two, which is reflective practice, which is slightly different, but it does, as a trained teacher, as a former teacher myself, and many teachers that might watch this or whoever watches this will understand that when we reflect upon our performance and we try to improve, we can do the same thing for our own mental well-being. And we're not here to make the world perfect, because it's not ever going to be perfect. So we need to be more comfortable living with our own emotions, our fears, and we can work through that one day at a time. So this small talk is really trying to put things together and give you a bit more of an easier framework than the article, because the article goes into immense detail, but I still highly encourage you to read it. I found it very, very profound to read, because it really is talking about stuff I've been talking about for the last 2 years. So I'll go back to my framework. Use and practice empathy in action. That's point one. Reflective practice. So it's really about understanding your feelings, which I suppose reflective practice is more for some of you think, okay, I've just done a presentation, but then what about your emotions, how you felt about that? And then point three, which is something really I want to hit home with everybody, is meditating on your thoughts, which is so important, because we don't get to know who we are in life until we learn to meditate on our fears and anxieties. That's so important. And I'm not just saying that through research, I'm saying it through lived experience, because, living with the condition that I have, my childhood was bad and those memories are still there, but I've learned to process them, work through them, something that we call cognitive reframing or emotional relearning. And I've reframed that situation in my head to say, right, okay, Steve, you've been through that. It wasn't your fault that you got abused, but now you're working through and you're sharing your research to help others. That's so profound. So we can reframe anything, to some degree. Although the pain is still there in the memory, we can, as a lot of counselors would say, get the memory out, work through it, file it on a library shelf, and it's there for us to access as a reference point up here whenever we want. And that's what we need to be doing with each other. We need to be putting our arms around each other, showing emotional support, and teaching one another about the concept of emotional relearning or cognitive reframing, which I think in the article it does touch upon as well. So there's a lot in there. So I do encourage you to read that article and build your own framework of understanding who you are, working through your emotions, and accepting that we don't live in a perfect world. That's so important, because there's so many things going on in this world right now. The war in Ukraine, global suicide levels, climate change, you name it. Some would argue because we live in now, we're living the worst times ever. But, some people in 2/3 of the world live less than $5 a day. So, we've always had poverty, and some of us have got running water in our homes. Some of us have got food and clothing, even though we've got a cost of living crisis. We need to have that more empathy around everybody so we can share the love. It's a bit cheesy, but the science is real on this, that showing empathy towards others helps us grow in confidence and understands who we are in life. Okay. And it's really what I would say, learning to become a servant leader, which is what I would define myself as. But anyway, I'll end the talk there. Hopefully the sound come through, and I enjoy giving it to you tonight. And like I said, I highly encourage everybody to read that article, subscribe to Harvard Business Review, because I get a lot of my research from there, and I think it will help a lot of people if they understand this framework. Some of the core message within the article is really empathy. Okay, and we need a lot more of it. We need to practice it. We're not all experts. We don't have to be. We can show someone some love and empathy and kindness and compassion. And when you turn it to yourself, you can teach it to others. Okay, hope that's helpful. Thanks for watching LinkedIn in America. And this is going out to one of my very small, humble YouTube channels. Thank you so much. Good night. God bless. Bye for now.